Hey, what is up, guys? It's your boy Speed here, and we are back. I know it's been a long time. I was coaching Team Apex Genesis at the Elite League tournament. Unfortunately, we didn't do too well, but it was still a great experience. Nonetheless, not going to bore you guys too much with that. We got gameplay update 7.37. I'm here in Lima, Peru, recording a video for you guys. And yeah, I mean, it's been pretty cool. Lima's been great. But all right, let's get into the update.
On top of that, go sign up to the Game League website, guys. I'm posting new content over there almost every day, and I'll see you there.
So, couple things I want to say. I've already read the majority of the update, so I'm going to mainly focus on what I think is, notable about the patch. And a couple things to note. First things first, the Mighty Mines have been changed. The HP regen in the mines is now 5 if you're on Dire, and it's 1.2 mana regen instead of 1.5 on Radiant, which is going to affect general jungling. I personally still think both sides should be exactly the same. Like, they should both give HP regen and mana regen or something like that, but whatever. Another huge change is that now the teleport time to the outpost near Roshan is only 4 seconds. So if you want to contest Roshan, TPing to the outpost is a way better idea now, and this is very, very important. Also, starting from his second death, Roshan now always drops the banner. Starting from his third death, Roshan now drops Refresher Shard and Cheese during daytime, or Aghanim's Blessing during nighttime. So that's pretty important to note as well. All right, let's move on ahead. So there's a couple of other things. I'm not going to cover them because I don't think they're actually that important, like teleport classification, breakability update. This one technically is pretty important to know what is breakable, but honestly, most of the abilities you probably already know, and honestly, it's just something you're going to figure out over time. I think me reading it now would just waste most of your guys' time. There's also some partial breaks. Like, for instance, Chaos Knight, his Phantasmagoria facet, the break disables the passive damage reduction aura, which is, like, very specific and generally won't come into play. So I think these changes, they're cool. It's Valve really putting some effort into the game, which I can respect, but they generally don't matter too much for you guys to know. All right, so let's move on to the neutral creep updates, which actually are significant for some of them. First off is a change for support players. The Harpy Stormcrafter, which is the zap creep, no longer always casts Chain Lightning if attacked by lane creeps when pulled, which is nice because this thing would just constantly zap, and it would actually do a lot of damage to you as a support, which is pretty obnoxious. Like, it was just very odd. Now the Giant Wolf, the thing that howls and reduces your damage, reduces damage by 10% more, which is kind of crazy. This to me feels like some sort of odd Chen buff, but I don't know. I already hate this creep, now I hate it more. I don't really like this change. Hellbear Smasher, the base attack damage bonus. If you kill the red creep, everything around it, the tomato, gets 60% more base damage for 5 seconds. It's actually a crazy number. Then we have the attack speed from the Hellbear. If the Hellbear creep dies, it gives 120 attack speed to everything around it. I actually think Chen Hellbear creeps getting this double buffs is pretty insane. Like, honestly, the Chen Hellbear facet is going to increase in win rate by quite a lot because of this. Some slight changes to the ancient creeps, they don't really matter. Roshan's banner is a little bit wider. Bracer, this is a pretty cool change. Instead of giving damage, it gives 50 or 100 health now, which is actually a lot of health, especially for supports that just want to buy a casual Bracer. It's better than ever because they didn't want to use the damage, so definitely a much better item on support, a worse item for certain offlaners that wanted the damage in the lane. Bloodstone gives less spell lifesteal, but the active is way better now, from 2.5 times to 4 times spell lifesteal when activated. Now Bloodthorn does half damage for units. It still does full damage for heroes, but it does half damage for things like Spiderlings. So for instance, like Brood, I just don't really think should prioritize Bloodthorn nearly as much anymore. Crimson got nerfed, but not by enough. This item is still broken. Dagon gives more spell lifesteal as you level it up, which is a nice change. Eternal Shroud got nerfed, which is kind of weird because people weren't even buying it. So I don't really know exactly why they did that. It's not that the item's like terrible, it's fine, but Pipe has become much more popular as the alternative, and now it definitely will be even more popular. I'm talking about Pipe. Ethereal Blade is a faster cast time. Guardian Greaves are a 5-second longer cooldown, which is not the end of the world. Heart got nerfed, which is really weird because honestly, this item I'm pretty sure is terrible. Halberd gives more slow resist and costs less mana to use, which is okay. It's not going to make the item broken. Lotus Orb is a shorter duration. Manta Style, an item that recently got nerfed in terms of cooldown, has been nerfed again. It's 2-second less duration on the illusions, which really sucks. This item much worse. Pavis gives 25 more health bonus. That's just part of the item. That's not the active, so that's kind of nice. Type of Insight, the barrier, the 450 HP barrier, lasts 2 less seconds, and it gives 2% less aura magic resist, but the item is still good. Solar Crest, which is going to be one of my favorite items of this patch, is 100 gold cheaper. On top of that, as you guys now know, Pavis gives more HP. So this build up is better and it's cheaper. Not by some crazy amount, but the item was already good. Like, I don't even know why they're buffing it. I think it's because people probably don't buy a lot, even though the item is very, very powerful. So yeah, definitely keep your eye out for Solar Crest. Then we have Shadow Amulet. Basically, you can move while using it. You're slowed by 35%. It can be dispelled, but you can move for 3.5 seconds. So when you're buying Glimmer Cape, I would actually buy Shadow Amulet in most games first and just use it to move around. Spirit Vessel is a little bit different. Earn's a bit more expensive. It's 900 gold now instead of like 875. It has slightly different buildup. And Spirit Vessel is now nerfed by actually quite a lot. So the cooldown, like the rate at which you can use it is 10 seconds instead of 7. And it's actually very noticeable. I bought it in the game. The soul release damage per second is worse from 35 to 25. The health gain reduction is increased though. So like basically it's slightly better against anti-heal, but it's overall much, much worse. So I would generally stay away from Vessel. I think Earn, even though it also got nerfed, is still a fine item just because Earn is kind of a broken item. Like, you know, as a standalone item, it still gives a lot. It gives a lot of health. It doesn't give all stats anymore, but it's fine. Trusty Shovel now always digs up a water rune when used in the river. So if you're a mid lane player with a bottle, definitely take Trusty Shovel. It's going to be a super reliable way to get infinite resources. Fairy's Trinket has been cycled out. There's now Ironwood Tree as a tier 1 neutral item, which gives you 5 all stats and you can plant a tree. Pigpole has been nerfed in terms of the all stats it gives from 5 to 4, but you go 5% movement speed faster when you activate it. So remember to use it. Iron Talon is back in the game, but as a tier 2 neutral item. And what's really notable about this item is the stats that it gives. People are going to overlook it because it's like, oh, it's too cheesy for a tier 2 neutral item. But it gives 20 attack speed and 4 armor, which is incredible stats for a huge portion of the core item cast, and even on some supports. And so if you need 20 attack speed and you need armor, this is going to be one of the best items in the game. And then occasionally you can just use it to farm faster, which is of course useful. So definitely keep Iron Talon in your sights. Then we have Philosopher's Stone, which now gives 750 gold before depleting, and when it depletes, it gives you a bonus 375 gold. I actually personally think this is an overall buff, as it's just going to give you this massive burst of gold, and so yeah, I think Philly Rock is actually a better item now. People's Gift gives slightly more all stats to Universal Heroes. Vambrace is now a tier 3 neutral item, but they barely buffed it, so I'm pretty sure it's terrible. Ogre Seal Totem, instead of being tier 3, is tier 4, and so basically this item, you get it later, but honestly, it's still going to be one of the best items in the game. Mobility that cannot be dispelled is just going to be OP in most scenarios in Dota. Like, that's just how it goes. All right, let's move on to Abaddon. He has a new innate ability where if you damage heroes when they're low HP, it reduces their HP regen, healing, lifesteal, spell lifesteal, so on and so on by 35% if they're below 40% HP, which honestly is pretty nice for like core and support. It's just casual, it's good. They also nerfed his cooldown on his ult, which kind of sucks, and they nerfed his level 20 talent. So not a huge fan of Abaddon. I think it's an okay support in your average pub because of the quickening being such a strong facet. So yeah, if you still like Holy Locket Abaddon, Axe Abaddon, it's still pretty strong. Anti-Mage got a little bit of HP regen, and his innate has been changed. It now scales with Mana Void, and basically if you attack people who are missing mana, it slows them. It starts slowing at 50% mana and ups, obviously, the lower they go. So this is really nice because now you just slow people starting at 50% mana, which, guys, is a big slow. It's like 20% at 50 mana if you have max Mana Void, which obviously it's Mana Void, so it's not like you're getting it that early. But even 12.5%, that's going to matter a lot. That's nearly an Orb of Venom. And so, yeah, it's pretty huge, actually. Mana Break is no longer innate, so you do have to skill it up, which it's actually slightly better at level 1 now if you skill it up, but it's, funny enough, slightly worse at max, which is really bizarre. I don't know how they came up with that. They gave him a new Axe, which reduces blink cooldown by 1 second. And when you cast it, your next Mana Break, so your next auto attack, not Mana Void, Mana Break, within 5 seconds is empowered, burning an additional 20% max mana and preventing the target from regenerating or gaining mana for 6 seconds, which is really crazy and honestly very powerful in some cases. I mean, every single time you blink, you just burn an extra 20% mana. This is, honestly, it might be good. Just because you can constantly poke and just burn people out of mana. I mean, this is a really low cooldown. All right, next up we have Arc Warden, who received some number buffs on Order, some number nerfs to Disorder, and a change to his 25 talent, which is Flux Silences when target is alone. Kind of cool. Next up we have Beastmaster, who received a buffed Wild Hunt, a nerf to Beast Mode. Well, not a nerf to Beast Mode, it's just rescaled because Inner Beast is no longer innate, which is what you need to know here. Beastmaster has a new innate, which is when he's tanking creeps, he gets a 100% chance to stout shield block. Every single melee hero in the game has a 50% chance to block 16 damage from any source. And now for Beastmaster, that's 100% against creeps, not heroes. Wild Access costs more mana in the later levels, which is a little annoying. Inner Beast is better at the later levels. It's technically better at level 1 if you scale it now, if you just instantly scale it, but it's no longer innate, so I'd say it's overall a nerf. And they nerfed the Axe, making it beat less and do less damage. Also, when you hit buildings, it no longer increases the stacks. And so it's actually pretty hard to siege on this hero, because if you don't have 20 stacks going and they go on you, you're actually very squishy, and so you're going to have to be careful about this. Alright, Bloodseeker, now when you get denies, it fully heals you, which is pretty cool. I don't think it's going to make the hero broken. His level 10 talent's really OP. It gives 15% spell amp on whoever you cast it on. This talent is broken. Please take it. It's really, really crazy. Bounty Hunter lost 2 base int, which is a little annoying, but now his streak extra gold is increased from 10 to 20%. So if you kill enemies with streaks, you get 20% more gold, which is pretty honestly stupid. The comeback mechanics on this hero in pubs is going to be pretty broken, I'm almost certain. They nerfed the Ags a bit in the 25 talent, but I'm pretty sure Bounty is going to be really broken this patch. Now, Brewmaster has a new innate. When he respawns or if he comes out of split, he gets 20% attack damage bonus. However, they nerfed Thunderclap. It's now a worse cooldown and worse radius of level 1, so it's basically forcing players to max this ability, which a lot of people did not want to do, so that's how they generally nerfed it. They also returned Drunken Brawler to a normal ability. Bristleback gained 5 base damage, which is pretty crazy, but it's nerfed in some ways. I mean, honestly, this hero might be good. They gave him a new facet, which is called Seeing Red, where basically you activate it, you get bonus damage and bonus movement speed, but you can only see in front of yourself. It's really funny, like you literally can only see directly in front of yourself. I'm not exactly sure if it's good. I personally think it's probably not, and the other facets are generally better, but it's cool. Now, he has a new innate as well, where he does 10% damage, debuff duration, and damage to heroes that are behind him. His Ags, however, is nerfed, which I guess is a way to, like, make sure this prickly isn't OP, but I don't know, the Ags is probably still good, even now. It used to be 7 though, which is crazy. They also now Warpath is not innate. So overall, I would say Bristleback is probably the same or worse. I can't imagine this hero is just OP all of a sudden. Broodmother, Necrotic Webs, debuff now only applies if Broodmother is in the same network of webs as the target, which is a massive, massive nerf, honestly. Pretty crazy nerf. They also nerfed the 10 talent, 15 talent, and they slightly buffed the 20 talent, but it doesn't really matter. They buffed the irrationality of Chaos Knight, but you should probably still take Phantasmagoria just for the damage reduction on the illusions. They nerfed Clockwork. Cog push duration has been decreased, so it's probably much worse now, honestly. Crystal Maiden, if you take Cold Comfort Facet, you get 75% mana regen amp, which is pretty crazy. It might actually be worth taking just for that. That's an insane amount of mana regen amp. All clarities you pop are almost double, which is nuts. Darkseer lost 2 base strength, which is a huge deal. It's a lot of base strength. And now his innate is much worse. His intelligence cannot be lower than the average of his strength and agi, but his agi isn't that good, and so like, this is just trash. It's honestly a big nerf to the hero. I'm not even sure what you should build anymore, because it sort of just doesn't make sense, at least in my head. I really can't understand it, but this is like a huge nerf to the hero, and they nerfed his 15 talent as well. Dazzle got some facet buffs. This one is pretty broken. This Poison Touch, Poison Bloom, when you hit targets 4 times, it splits the Poison Touch and does damage. Just flat damage. In early game, flat damage is OP. So really, I think Poison Bloom Dazzle core is pretty OP and definitely something to consider. Death Prophet, her Spirit Collector facet's better. She can get charges when she's dead. Morning Ritual, which is her other new facet, is really overpowered and it might make the hero broken. Basically, based on your ulti level, you take damage in intervals over time. So you delay a portion of the damage that you're taking into 5-second interval time. So at level 1, even with no points in ulti, you take 20% of the damage you would normally take over 5 seconds. You might be like, okay, so you still take all the damage. But if you buy Yules, you can just straight up dodge the effect, which is really overpowered, you can imagine, because like, let's say it's late game, you're level 18, you dodge 50% of the damage and you just Yules the majority of it off. And when people are trying to burst you, they just can't anymore. So really, it's pretty OP. They also like buffed Curse Storm slightly. They buffed the Fasts a little bit. Like, I don't know. I think this hero might be just extremely good with auras. This Disruptor Kinetic Fence facet is straight up OP and should be taken. It just insane cast range now. They also changed Glimpse a little bit to do damage based on how much you travel. Doom got a new facet, but from what I read, it's just trash. It increases the duration over time. but it lowers the damage, which is really not good. Dragonite, they nerfed his Corrosive Dragon. I would recommend just generally not playing Corrosive Dragonite. Drow got some major buffs here. Her Facet Sidestep, the movement speed penalty is decreased from 40 to 25, which is really huge. She can move way faster when casting multi-shot. And her Frost Arrows went from 6 to 10 damage at level 1, meaning the laning stage is way better for last hitting and just general poke. Also, she got an attack range talent at level 15. Earth Spirit got this new facet where now if he rolls over allies, they get bonus movement speed, and it's a lot. So it's 30% for 4 seconds. Pretty overpowered, honestly. Also, Earth Spirit travels further and faster and stuns enemies for longer. So pretty cool facet, might be good. They also buffed the damage rolling boulder, which is really nice, and they gave him 5 damage on his ulti, and that's like pretty big because this ulti stays on people for forever. Now, Earthshaker's Slugger facet, if you kill units with any of your abilities, it shoots them all. He also got a new innate where when you die, a 75 Fisher radius is created and you can gain XP from it. It's kind of weird, and Aftershock is no longer innate. Elder Titan's Momentum facet got nerfed by 5%, and he has this weird innate now where basically, like, if something is affected by Roshan's Banner or Glyph, like if you Glyph a tier 2, it does double damage. So if you're playing ET, just Glyph when they dive to tier 2 and they're all gonna die, and I'm dead serious. Slight nerf to Ember's facet, they also nerfed his innate. Ember just got, like, overall nerfed, honestly. I'm honestly sus about this hero unless you're an expert now. They nerfed it pretty damn hard, let me tell you. Enchantress got some weird changes. Basically, neutral camps deal more damage to enemies globally. It starts at 10% damage and increases by 3% per level. So at level 3, Ench makes the enemy creeps deal almost 20% damage to enemies, which is pretty stupid and might be really obnoxious. I don't know. I don't want to say it's OP, but it seems really powerful. It's just like hard to farm neutrals. Like an Ancient stack is just going to blow the enemy up. Enigma got some slight nerfs. Faceless Void lost his good facet, or one of his good facets. I would recommend playing this hero only if you're going to take Time Zone now, I think. Or primarily if you're going to take Time Zone, is what I'd say. Grimstroke got a slight buff to Fine Art, which is his bonus damage per target. It's actually a huge increase, so this one's way better now. Gyrocopter got a slight buff to his ult in the later levels. Hoodwink, they buffed Go Nuts, making the bonus cast range and attack range increased, which is nice. Honestly, it is pretty strong. People might consider it. Just play this hero as the mid-game hero it used to be. However, they nerfed Acorn Shot by a lot. The mana cost is way worse. The bonus damage is worse in the early levels, which is really when you wanted it. They also nerfed the 15 talent by half, which is crazy huge, and the 20 talent. So Hoodwink is way worse now. Probably still an okay hero, but way worse. Next up, we have Huskar, who got a new facet. Spears also burn enemies for 1% of their max health per second. Costs 4% of max health instead of 4% of current health, but the duration is decreased. So basically, you kill yourself really fast, but against tanky heroes, it's going to shred them. So I don't know. This one is super weird. You're gonna have to get a lot of healing to make up for the damage you're going to deal to yourself. Jakiro, who's a very good hero right now, barely getting nerfed. Slight nerf to the 10 talent. Juggernaut got some changes. Basically, they gave him an interesting 10 talent where you get 4% more duelist damage, which is hitting people from the front. You get more bonus damage. Kunkka got some really crazy changes. His minimum damage got increased by 4, which is nice, obviously. He has a new innate ability, which is a passive that can't be leveled up. When taking damage from a hero, building, or Roshan, that would reduce Kunkka below 65% of his health, it automatically triggers a rum over 10 seconds, providing 10% bonus movement speed and delaying 20% of damage taken. The delayed damage is dealt evenly over time, over 10 seconds. And it's a 60-second cooldown. So, I mean, it's honestly pretty good. It makes Kunkka way tankier. It's definitely nice. You can play around the cooldown. They also buffed Torrent, the AoE and the mana cost. They returned Tidebringer to its old form. It's just the same as it used to be. Ghost Ship, now allied heroes touched by the Ghost Ship receive a stronger rum, which is kind of what it used to be, so that's not really new. And they removed Torrent Storm, which I'm pretty sure just makes the hero terrible. I don't know. I would not pick Kunkka, honestly. Legion Commander now has a new innate that can be leveled up, so it's not Moment of Courage. Attacking an enemy hero that has a higher level than Legion increases her HP regen, lifesteal, and incoming heals by 50% for 4 seconds. Always applies when attacking a hero that is at max level. I don't know, it's kind of weird because it's not like this hero is supposed to be low level. Sometimes in the mid game she falls behind because she doesn't farm creeps though, so maybe it's interesting. I don't know. But they return Moment of Courage back to what it used to be, so I'm pretty sure this hero is just terrible now. Leshrac, his facet got buffed slightly, but they nerfed his stun. Lifestealer, now the Corpse Eater is just part of the feast, and it gives 15 max HP per hero kill. So if you can kill heroes, you get a lot of health. Lina, new innate ability, passive scales with Laguna Blade. Every 150 damage Lina does to an enemy hero causes them to overheat. So basically, if you deal a certain amount of damage, people just like, yeah, they heat up and they take damage. Also to their allies, so it's AoE, which is really, really nice. Honestly, it's pretty good. It's just strong. It's going to help you farm as well, so it's nice. Fiery Soul is no longer a lovable innate ability. Movement speed bonus per stack rescaled as well. But I definitely think Lina might be really, really strong. Lion got a slight change. If they run out of mana, the slow for mana drain is increased now by 15%. Lone Druid got a new facet, which honestly, I'm not going to get into it right now. I think it's mainly for Lone Druid spammers. Like, you get less slots, but they're more effective. However, Lone Druid did get some cool changes where now you can re-roll your neutral tokens, and Spirit Bearer can no longer equip its own neutral items. However, it copies and shares a cooldown with Lone Druid, so it's pretty cool. You can re-roll till you get like a good stat neutral item. Luna got some changes. They moved her innate ability. Lunar Blasting is now innate. It grants 1 attack damage per level to Luna and allied heroes, and 400 bonus night vision plus 20 per level to Luna only. Luna receives double the attack damage bonuses. At night, Lunar Blessing is global. So, I don't know, seems pretty powerful actually. You're just going to be getting a lot of damage to your teammates. It's really, really nice. Now she has a new basic ability. It creates 4 glaives that rotate. So this is, the Luna orbit. Any unit that collides, it takes a percentage of Luna's attack damage. So this is just kind of what it used to be. I don't know, it doesn't seem that good. And Moon Glaives can no longer be activated. Yeah, basically, it got slightly buffed. Actually, it got buffed pretty significantly, so I guess Glaives are much better now. Lycan, he has this new facet where it increases the max level of Summon Wolves by 2, but decreases the max level of Howl and Feral Impulse by 1. The damage and health scale linearly for the 5th and 6th levels. Starting at level 5, Wolves gain Hamstring, an attack modifier that applies a 0.5 second root, and the next 4 attacks from units under Lycan's control deal an extra 50 physical damage, which seems pretty damn strong, especially with Helm. Starting at level 6, they gain High Tail when activated. Wolves gain, so you have to use it. You gain a burst of energy, gaining hasted and phased movement speed, 100% evasion, and 20 attack speed. That also seems pretty good. And Wolves summoned with Aghanim Shard are improved when leveling Summon Wolves past level 4. So the Shard is super OP. So this facet might be, honestly, really, really good. Magnus, slight changes. Marcy, now the Bodyguard facet is different. Health gain from Lifesteal now also heals bodyguarded ally, which is actually very significant, and they buffed the armor by a ton, so this facet might be really, really good. Medusa, they removed Mana Pact. They gave her a new facet, which Medusa applies a poison to every 5th attack, slowing enemies by 35%, attack speed by 80, cast speed by 50. 80 attack speed, what in the world? That is crazy for 1.5 seconds. So if you have high attack speed, this is pretty insane. The poison attack counts as an attack modifier for the purpose of split shot. Also, Mana Shield now has base 2.4 damage per mana, and then gains 0.1 per level, which is actually quite good. So that seems pretty damn strong. But they nerfed Mystic Snake movement speed or turn rate slow. They also nerfed the cooldown, but they gave her a new ability. Medusa fires a volley into the sky that lands in 3 groups lines, with each group larger than the previous. Enemies struck take physical damage and are rooted, can't turn and take 100 physical damage per second for 0.8, 1.2, 1.6, or 2 seconds. It seems pretty strong. It's really good for farming. It roots them. They can't turn. It's honestly nice. This hero kind of had some control issues, but Snake doesn't slow anymore, so it's really hard to tell if this is actually strong or not. Mirana got 3 base damage, but they nerfed her base strength and gave her strength gain, which just seems terrible. I don't know. I can't imagine she's good. Wukong's Faithful, Monkey King's other facet, increases your ulti duration by 3 seconds now, which is a lot, honestly. They also nerfed Tree Dance cast speed. Now it goes on cooldown when taking any damage. So if you're trying to hop around as Monkey King and you take any damage, even from creeps, you can't jump, which is actually really shitty. And honestly, I don't like this change. It makes the hero feel super unfluid. Next up, we have Naga. Now her Deluge, which is the active version of her E, caps enemies' max movement speed at 225. However, the duration is worse, but the status resist reduction is also 35% now instead of 20. Which I can't imagine it's actually good. I don't know. Nature's Prophet got some huge buffs. His Ironwood Treant gives 700 more day vision, 300 more night vision, and has 50 more movement speed. This thing goes way faster. It's way better for trading in the laning stage. Much, much more powerful. On top of that, Wrath of Nature now hits all visible targets, so it doesn't have a max amount of bounces, but it does not increase past 16th bounce, the damage that is. So this thing hits everything, so you don't even have to think about like hitting stacks accidentally now. And on top of that, you're just going to be able to cast it bottom and hit every single unit, every hero in teamfight's top. So it's way, 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 way better. I definitely think Nature's Prophet is 10 times better now, so I'm super excited to play him. Nyx Assassin, they changed his mana burn. Basically, it doesn't work with Vendetta, and it only triggers for 15% of their current mana on his abilities. On top of that, his Innate, now it reveals heroes in Fog of War. So you can just see people without seeing them in a 350 radius, which is kind of insane. However, they did remove the burst damage on the Shard with Nyx, which is a pretty huge nerf. So a hero, I would say Nyx is like fine still. If you still want to play Dagon Nyx, it's good. Omni Knight received some changes. His Shard now affects Purification, and it's basically double Purification. Repel Nil gives magic resist, but it's a worse cooldown, so it makes you very, very tanky. Hammer Purity does less damage, but it goes down to a 4-second cooldown at max instead of 10. So it's pretty crazy how much you can spam this ability with like a Conda. Definitely some potential there. Guardian Angel is now changed from unit target ability to point target ability. Now applies Guardian Angel to all allied units in a 400 radius, but it doesn't have charges. It has a worse cast range and a much longer cooldown, so it's probably bad, honestly. Pangolier does less damage at the early levels with his ulti, but more in the later levels. Phantom Assassin got a huge buff here, which is now the cast time of Blur is lower, and it disjoints projectiles, so you just don't use Blur in teamfights, and you can dodge many stuns and abilities with it. PL got some, I would say, major nerfs. They gave him this interesting Innate where, like, items that give bonus damage turn it into base damage, but it's, like, pretty terrible, and I think this hero just got major nerf. Phoenix got some slight nerfs. Primal Beast got some interesting buffs to Romp and Stomp. They also nerfed Uproar in the early levels. Puck's Curveball, now you can see the trajectory. Pugna now gains spell amplification per destroyed allied towers, which is kind of cool. The damage to mana health is really good on Siphoning Ward now. I definitely keep this one in mind. So I don't know, I feel like Pugna should be better. They also gave him some really cool talents. Now he gets +2 Nether Ward health at 10. Quap got 2 base strength. Her return damage on Bondage got 5% better. The mana cost on Shadow Strike got way better, so Quap got major buffs. This hero definitely might be good now. However, they did get rid of her 20 damage talent at level 10. Razor got a 12 strength talent at level 15, which is pretty crazy. Ricky's Exterminator got buffed again. This used to be 3, now it's 4.5. And they also buffed Smokescreen cooldown in the early levels. Rubik got nerfs, which is weird because I thought the hero was bad. Sand King overall got nerfs. They tried to buff Dust Devil again, and they buffed it by a ton. So maybe Dust Devil is once again good. It's like hard to say, but Dust Devil, yeah, might be good again. However, they nerfed Caustic Finale. Stinger now procs Magic Stick. It costs more mana. The cooldown's worse. It does less damage. So this hero, I don't know, it's probably not too good anymore, but it's always a good pup hero. So I would say it's mid tier now, like maybe A tier, high B tier. Shadow Demon got a slight buff to Promulgate, which is one of his facets. The cooldown on his Disseminate got buffed, so this Disseminate ability is way better, especially early on as a value point. Also, they buffed Lasting Presence, which already people were taking, which is pretty cool. Every hero kill increases max souls by 1 until Shadow Fiend dies, which, I mean, it's until you die, so it's not that good. Hero kills no longer increase max souls by 1 by default, so that's actually a huge nerf. Shadow Rays also got nerfed. Yeah, this hero got nerfed a lot. I would very much stay away from it. They buffed Massive Serpent Wards. Now it's just the same HP as the regular wards, which is pretty crazy. Aghanim Shard Serpent Ward Linger is also now 1 second better, so the Shard on Shaman worth buying again. Silencer, his permanent intelligence steal was decreased from 2 to 1, and the Shard Intelligence steal was also decreased. Now also steals intelligence if the dying unit was debuffed by Silencer, even if he was out of range, which is pretty nice for things like global. Like, you can global and then just get, it's like crazy actually. You can global and then just get stacks of stolen in, but it's way worse. I mean, Glaives of Wisdom are better early on, which is kind of nice. Plus they buffed Last Word by quite a lot. So I don't know. I can't imagine this hero is too good, but you can steal in globally. They nerfed Skywrath, which is kind of weird. Slaughter, his Shard got nerfed, which is a little weird. Slark got 3 base damage, which is actually nice, and some slight buffs to his talents. Snapfire, a hero that's very popular in the pro scene, got nerfed. Her Cookie does a little bit more damage in the higher levels, but the big thing here is that Little Shredder is 1 less attack base. Her 15 talent and 25 talent on the Shredder also got nerfed. Sniper gained bonus attack range, which is his attack range bonus with Assassinate is much better. Shrapnel increased by damage by 5 at all levels, which is really, really nice. Spectre, mana cost buff on Spectral Dagger, and the damage reflected on Dispersion, 3% better at level 1, plus his 10 talent got buffed. Bull Rush, Spiritbreaker's Facet, the lingering bonus movement speed is now determined by Spiritbreaker's current bonus speed instead of the max, which is much worse actually. Sven got some changes. Hero was a really broken support. It gives less armor at the max level, but honestly it's still good, and I would still play Sven support. It's still pretty OP. Techi's got a slight buff, but it's nothing crazy. PA got some changes. Basically, her armor damage reduction was decreased on meld from 12 to 6. Bonus damage reductions are now applied when denying allies or traps. However, Templar Assassin and her teammates can now see Roshan's respawn timer, which is pretty cool. Also, attacking a target with meld with this new Facet Void Blades applies the bonus damage and debuff to enemies hit by the Side Blade spill, which, I mean, I guess that's cool. You have to be super high skill. I'm pretty sure it's not that good. TV got some buffs to meta on his attack range, which is okay. Ravage got buffed slightly. Tide also got some base int. Timbersaw's Shredder Facet, which I personally think is pretty good, got buffed. The slow duration. Also, his mana per tree got buffed. I think this hero is probably pretty decent. Tinker's March and Machine heal bots are 50% better at max level. It's super legit, actually. I don't know. This hero might be a decent support, unironically. It's crazy to say that. Crash Landing on Tiny got nerfed, so did his toss damage, so mid-Tiny is not completely overpowered anymore. Now Underlord's Fiend Gate buff is makes it where after an ally hero teleports, they temporarily gain damage reduction and movement speed. And it seems like it's like any teleport. It's not even just this Fiend's Gate. Any teleport, they gain movement speed. Bonuses are doubled when teleporting via Fiend's Gate. Yeah, so your teammates just get damage reduction and movement speed when using teleport, which is really, really overpowered, actually. Unfortunately, Atrophiora is no longer innate, and it also got nerfed, so this ability, it's kind of how they're balancing it, but honestly, I think the hero is probably pretty good. Definitely something to keep in mind. Ceaseless Dirge can no longer be refreshed. I didn't even know it could. That's pretty crazy. Tombstone is lower cooldown to level 1, but slightly worse at max, which is really nice for the laning stage. Ursus Bear Down Facet got slightly nerfed. It scales with Rage. Venom lost 2 base damage. However, Plague Carrier, when attached to the carrier, ward health is now increased by a percentage of their max health. He has this really crazy innate where if you debuff the enemy, you do more base damage. It's actually really overpowered, and I'm going to cover it in a separate video. However, Plague Wards are more mana at level 1, so it's worse for jungling, unfortunately. I know, it's sad. Also, Viper has a new innate. His attacks deal an additional instance of physical damage based on how much health they're missing, which is like his old, way back in the day. I'm sure you guys remember that. Death Toll, his new facet, Soul Assumption kills give 35 gold per charge. So if you kill people with Soul Assumption, you get bonus gold. It's very unreliable. I would take the attack speed one for sure. Void Spirit got a new facet where when you exit Dissimulate, Aether Remnants are created at the 3 portals furthest away, which is kind of cool. You can hit people with Aether, but honestly, Sanctuary is probably just too good, and you should just keep taking Sanctuary. Slight buff to Shadow Ward on Warlock at the later levels. Weaver is kind of dead. They just removed Geminate from being innate, so it's kind of trash. Wind Ranger got nerfed very hard because they got rid of the bonus movement speed on the facet, and now it's just Focus Fire, which is trash. Witch Doctor's Maledict is better in the early levels, which is really nice. This ability is super OP. And finally, Wraith King's Lifesteal has been increased in the early levels. It also now decreases respawn timer by Wraith duration, which is super, super nice. Aghanim Scepter no longer reduces respawn time though. And alright, that's going to be all for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this patch. It's going to be exciting to see. My big hero is going to be, I would say, Timbersaw and Nature's Prophet look really good. Let me know in the comment section down below which heroes you guys think are going to be really OP in the patch, and I'll see you in the next one.
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, come on, before you tune out, subscribe to the Game Leap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace.